On the day my daughter-in-law threw my granddaughter's baby blanket in the trash, I thought I was just saving a memory. I didn't know I was pulling my son's accidental death out of the dumpster. If you're a mom or a grandma listening to this right now, do not scroll, because the way I found the truth might be the way you find out what's really going on in your own house.
I was parked across the street from my daughter-in-law's house, hands on the steering wheel, staring at the front windows. A plastic bag of little toys sat on the passenger seat. I had picked them out slowly. A stuffed puppy, a coloring book, stickers with glittery unicorns. I wasn't even planning to knock. Just leave the bag by the door, like a sad little Amazon delivery from Grandma, and drive away. My name is Ellen. I'm 69 years old. And 3 years before this day, I buried my only son. Sometimes I drove past that house just to feel closer to the only piece of him I had left, my daughter, Isabella. As I sat there, the garage door creaked open. Ashley stepped out, my daughter-in-law. Perfect hair, perfect leggings, perfect fake smile for everyone but me. She was dragging 2 big black trash bags toward the green dumpster by the driveway. They were heavy. She yanked them along the pavement, jaw clenched like the bags had personally offended her. She flung the lid up, shoved the bags inside, and slammed it down like she was sealing a vault. For a second, I almost started the car. Then I saw it. A corner of mint green yarn was caught under the lid, fluttering in the breeze. Isabella's baby blanket, the one I had spent weeks knitting before she was born. The one my son used to call Magrig, because wrapping Isabella in it could calm any storm. Ashley shoved the blanket down with a violent little motion like she hated it, like she wanted it buried deep. Then she walked back into the house without a single glance. My heart pounded. You do not throw away that blanket. You do not toss the last piece of a man you helped bury. I waited until the garage door slid shut. Waited another minute for my hands to stop shaking. Then I opened my car door. I am not a young woman. My knees crack every time I bend them. But I crossed that street like I was 25 years old. The smell hit me the moment I lifted the dumpster lid. Rotten food, old coffee, cleaning chemicals, perfume. I dug through junk mail, taped out containers, a broken picture frame, a crumpled grocery ad. And then my fingers brushed yarn. Soft, familiar, mint green. I pulled the blanket out. It was wrinkled and stained, smelly and trash and expensive perfume. But it was still my blanket. I pressed into my chest and closed my eyes. For a heartbeat, it felt like I was hugging Isabella. I didn't think. I didn't look back at the house. I put the toys back on the seat, laid the blanket gently on top, like I was buckling a baby into a car seat and drove home. I thought I was rescuing a piece of my son. I had no idea I was bringing home a crime scene.
When I got home, I locked the front door behind me. I don't know why. Maybe some part of me already knew I was about to open something I couldn't close again. I carried the blanket to my bedroom and spread it out on my bed. Under the lamplight, the mint green yarn looked dull, edges slightly frayed. My fingers remembered the pattern, every stitch, every row, those long nights I'd sat knitting and dreaming about becoming a grandma. I smoothed my hands over the surface, back and forth, trying to calm myself down. That's when I felt it. Right in the center of the blanket was a hard little lump. Not the soft give of stuffing, not a knot of yarn. A flat rectangular shape hidden between the layers. My stomach dropped. I turned the blanket over and studied the edges carefully. Then I saw it. Along the bottom edge was a row of stitches, just a little too perfect, too tight, too straight. Not my work, not my hands, not my love. Someone had opened this blanket, slipped something inside, and sewn it back up with surgical care. I went to my nightstand and opened a drawer. My old sewing scissors were right where I'd left them. Small, sharp, handles worn smooth. My hands trembled as I picked them up. "Ellen," I whispered to myself, "you raised a teenage boy. You can handle cutting a piece of thread." I found the beginning of the seam and started to snip, thread by thread. Each tiny snip sounded loud in the quiet room, like scissors cutting through time. I felt like I was opening a vein, like once the seam was open, there'd be no going back to the version of my life where my son had just fallen. Finally, the last stitch gave way. I slid my fingers into the opening, cold, smooth, unforgiving metal. I pulled it out slowly, heart beating in my throat. It was a small black cell phone. Older model, scuffed edges, the kind of cheap phone you'd buy for emergencies and then forget or hide or apparently sew into a baby blanket and throw in the trash. I sat on the edge of my bed holding it in my palm. Why would anyone hide a phone and a blanket meant for a baby? Why would Ashley toss the blanket 3 years after my son's dead? Why now? I opened my dresser and dove through a box of ancient cords and chargers. I never throw that kind of thing away. For once, my pet rat habit saved me. One of the cords fit. Had plugged it into the wall outlet, plugged the other end into the phone, and waited. If you've ever watched a dead phone slowly blink back to life while your whole world hangs on it, you know those seconds stretch. The screen flickered. A little battery icon appeared. Just one thin red bar. I waited. 5 minutes? 10? Finally, the screen lit up fully. No pin, no pattern lock, no fingerprint. It opened straight to the home screen, like it had been waiting for me, like it was saying,
Go ahead, Grandma. You were meant to see this.
Before I go on, if you're listening to this while you wash dishes, fold laundry, or lie in bed in the dark, take 1 second. Look around. Remember this moment. Because from here, this story goes from sad to, how is this real? I tapped the gallery icon. The first picture that popped up knocked the breath out of me. Ashley. Hair shiny, lipstick perfect, pearl gray dress. She was sitting at a restaurant table, wine glass in hand, smiling right into the camera. But she wasn't alone. A man sat next to her, arms slung around her shoulders, lips on her cheek, and that man was not my son. I checked the timestamp. 4 years ago, back when Matthew and Ashley had only been married a year, when she was supposedly pregnant with Isabella. I swiped. There they were again, Ashley and the same man, on a beach in bathing suits, his hands on her waist. In a hotel room, white sheets tangled around them. In a car at night, his hand on her leg, her face lit by passing headlights. Every photo was from the time Matthew had told me he was working extra shifts, covering for people, giving them time off. While my son was saving other people's lives, her wife was off building a secret one. I kept swiping, even though my hands were shaking. Then I saw a folder labeled Vids. I tapped it. The first video was a home recording. The camera was set on a shelf, facing a gray sofa I knew by heart. Matthew and Ashley's living room. Same coffee table, same rug I had helped pick out, the same painting I bought them at a housewarming gift. Ashley walked into frame with that man, laughing, hands all over each other. They fell onto the sofa, and within seconds it was clear what I was watching. I hit pause. I couldn't do it. I backed out and opened the Messages app instead. There at the top was a contact saved only as H. Heart. I tapped. At first it was nothing but cheesy love notes. Last night was incredible. Can't stop thinking about you. Wish it were you in my bed, not him. Him was my son. I scrolled further down. Ashley was complaining about Matthew. He's suffocating me. He doesn't get me. He thinks marriage is forever. I feel like I'm in a cage. My jaw clenched. Matthew had worked 60-hour weeks to give her that house, that car, that perfect Instagram life. She called it a cake. The method just kept going. I'm tired of pretending to be the perfect wife. I want a real life with you. If he weren't here, we'd already be gone. Then I hit the message that changed everything. There has to be another way. I can't keep living like this. I need him to disappear. Not, I need a divorce. Not, I need space. I need him to disappear. H replied, don't say crazy things. Just wait. We'll figure something out. Ashley? No. I'm done waiting. If he weren't here, we'd already be gone. The messages trickled off about a week before Matthew fell down the stairs and accidentally hit his head. That's the moment his death stopped looking like bad luck and started looking like a blueprint. My heart thudded in my ears. I backed out of messages and opened the Notes app. There was only one note, dated 2 days before my son died. Tuesday, 3 p.m. He'll be alone. Everything has to look natural. Accent. No one can suspect. Tuesday at 3. That was exactly the time Ashley had told me she found him at the bottom of the stairs. For 3 years, I told myself the same story everyone else believed. He slipped. He fell. It was no one's fault. Now I was looking at proof that Matthew's death was scheduled like a dentist appointment.
Before I tell you what I did with that information, you need to know who Matthew was. My husband died of a heart attack when Matthew was 17. One minute he was pouring coffee, the next minute he was on the floor. Just like that, it was me and my boy against the world. Matthew was the kind of kid teachers remember years later, not because he was loud, but because he was kind. He'd bring extra snacks for kids who forgot lunch. He'd help neighbors carry groceries inside. He'd fix my computer with those patient hands and never make me feel dumb. He loved science. He loved helping people. He loved trying to fix what was broken. So, of course, he became a doctor. The first time he walked into my kitchen in his white coat, I cried so hard he thought something terrible had happened. "Ma," he laughed, "it's just a goat." "It's not," I told him. "It's Bruce. You did it." He worked in the ER. Night shifts, holidays, cold blues. Sometimes he'd call me on break just to sit in silence, listening to the sound of my TV in the background because it made him feel normal. Then he met Ashley. He brought her over one Sunday for roast chicken. "Ma, this is Ashley," he said, eyes shining in a way I hadn't seen since he was a kid with a new bike. She wore a cream-colored dress, had a perfect manicure, and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Mrs. Stone," she said warmly, "I've heard so much about you." She hugged me, and her perfume was just a little too strong. I wanted to like her. For Matthew's sake, I decided I did. When he told me they were engaged, my heart squeezed. Part of me was afraid of being replaced, of losing him. But when a child tells you they've found the one, you don't dump your fears on their happiness. If she makes you happy, then I'll make room for her. They got married in a small church with cheap flowers and nervous vows. I remember watching them dance, Matthew's eyes locked on hers, and thinking, "Please, God, let this be good to him." A year later, he called me from work. "Ma," he said, voice shaking with excitement, "you're going to be a grandma." I dropped the phone. Literally, it clattered onto the table. I picked it back up, laughed, crying. "Are you serious?" I gasped. He laughed, dead serious. "Can you knit fast?" That's how the mint green blanket started. Loop after loop, row after row, and with every stitch, I whispered a little wish for the baby. Be healthy, be loved, be safe. When Isabella was born, I thought my heart might burst. She was tiny, with Matthew's dark eyes and a hungry little pride. Ashley looked tired, but perfect as always. Posing with the baby for pictures, checking her hair between shots. Matthew, though, he looked like the sun had moved inside his chest. He'd send me pictures at 3 a.m. Dark circles under his eyes, Isabella sleeping on his chest, wrapped in the blanket. He'd text, "Magic." She screams for an hour. I put her in her blanket. She's on 5. Those pictures became my treasures. After he died, I'd sit in my living room at night, scrolling through them, telling myself that at least he'd known happiness, that his life, though short, had been full. The idea that his wife might have looked at that same loving man and seen nothing but a paycheck and an obstacle, that was almost more than I could bear.
3 years before the dumpster, my phone rang on a Tuesday afternoon. I remember the light coming through the curtains, how ordinary it looked. The caller ID said, "Ashley." I answered, smiling. "Ashley, how's my girl?" All I heard was screaming. "Ellen," she sobbed, "it's Matthew. He fell down the stairs. He's not moving. There's blood. Oh, my God." The room tilted. "Where are you?" I managed. "At home," she cried. "The ambulance is here. Just come to the hospital, please." I don't remember the drive. I just remember white lines on the road and horn honks when I drifted lanes. When I burst into the emergency room, Ashley was sitting in a chair, face buried in her hands. Her pearl gray dress had dark stains on the sleeves. Blood! She looked up and saw me. "Ellen," she wailed, jumping up and throwing her arms around me. "I tried. I called. Her words dissolved into sobs against my shoulder. I held on to her only because my knees didn't want to work. "I need to see my son. I need to see Matthew." A doctor walked out from the double doors. He had that look I'd seen on my son's face too many times. The look of someone about to break a stranger's heart. "Mrs. Stone?" he asked softly. I nodded. He took off his glasses, and I already knew. "I'm very sorry," he said. "Your son, he suffered a severe head trauma. The bleeding in his brain was catastrophic. We did everything we could. The sounds that came out of me didn't feel human." I sank to the floor. Someone lifted me into a chair. Ashley held my hand and repeated, "Matthew would want us to be strong. He would want us to be strong." But nothing felt strong. Everything felt broken. The police came, took statements. Ashley said she'd been out grocery shopping with Isabella, came home, found the front door cracked open, called his name, and found him at the foot of the stairs in a pool of blood. Maybe he was Russian, one officer said kindly. Maybe he slipped. They ruled it an accident. We buried my son under a sky that was too blue. Ashley wore black, held Isabella on her hip, cried at the right moments. People hugged her, called her poor thing, said things like, "At least she has the baby." I clung to that story, the accident, with both hands, because the alternative was imagining someone pushing my boy. And that was something my brain refused to picture until the blanket, until the phone, until the note.
After the funeral, Ashley moved through grief like she moved through everything, with curated perfection. At first, it made sense that she pulled away. I tried to respect her space. I'd text and ask if I could come over, bring food, help with the baby. Sometimes she said yes. Sometimes she didn't answer. Sometimes she answered days later with an apology and a flimsy excuse. I fell asleep with Isabella. I had to pick up an extra shift. I'm just not up for visitors. I didn't want to be the overbearing mother-in-law, so I waited. But I noticed things. How she looked almost annoyed when I talked about Matthew's childhood. How she changed the subject whenever his name came up. How there were fewer and fewer photos of him in the house every visit. The first time I realized their wedding picture was gone from the hallway wall, I told myself maybe it broke, or maybe she moved it to the bedroom, or maybe you can maybe yourself into ignoring anything. Every time I saw Isabella, I felt time slipping away. Her hair grew longer. Her little voice changed. She'd show me toys I'd never seen and talk about routines I wasn't part of. I'd go home after each visit and cry quietly in my kitchen, feeling like the world was shrinking around me. Grief will do that. Makes walls feel closer, make the air feel heavier. But not looking back, there was something else in Ashley's eyes whenever she looked at me. Calculation. I just didn't know it yet.
Back to the night of the blanket. I sat on my bed, the hidden phone on my lap, the messages about disappearing wrapped around my brain like barbed wire. I am not a detective. I'm an old woman with arthritis and a slow internet connection. But I knew this. I couldn't keep this to myself. I needed someone who knew me well enough to know I wasn't losing my mind. Someone who had watched every true crime show on TV and yelled at the screen when people ignored red flags. So I called my neighbor, Gloria. She's 65, sharp as a thumbtack, and has been my friend since my husband's funeral. She answered on the third ring. "Ellen?"
she mumbled. "It's 6 in the morning. What's wrong?" "I need you to come over," I said. My voice sounded hollow. "Right now." "Are you hurt?" "Not my body," I said. "My head. My heart." A pause. "I'll be there in 15. 15 minutes later, she knocked on my door. Hair in a messy ponytail, mustard yellow sweater thrown over pajama pants. She took one look in my face and her expression changed. "Oh, honey," she said softly. "What happened?" I didn't answer. I just led her to my bedroom. The blanket lay open on the bed, the phone next to it, screen dark but loaded. I told her everything. Finding the blanket in the dumpster, feeling the lump, cutting the scene, charging the phone, the photos, the videos, the messages about disappearing, the note about Tuesday at 3 p.m. Gloria listened without interrupting. Her face went from confusion to anger to something like horror. When I finished, my throat was raw. She picked up the phone carefully, like it might burn her. She opened the gallery, her lips pressed together. She opened the messages with each. Her eyes widened. She scrolled to the note about Tuesday at 3 p.m. She whispered, "Oh my God." She set the phone down gently and looked at me. "Ellen," she said slowly, "this isn't just cheating. This is planning. This is murder." I thought grief was making me crazy, I said. I thought maybe I was reading into things. She shook her head. "No, your grief might have kept you quiet for 3 years, but your brain is working just fine. The question is, what do we do now?" "The police?" I asked. "They're not going to listen to an old lady with a dumpster phone and a blanket." Gloria's mouth tilted up in a grim smile. "Then we give them more than that," she said. "We find out who H is. We find every trail Ashley left. And then we walk into that station with so much evidence they better give you a chair with your name on it." She picked up the phone again. "In 2025, nobody has secrets without leaving crumbs online," she said. "Let's see where hers lead." We moved to the kitchen table with my old laptop. Gloria sat beside me, reading glasses perched on her nose. "First stop," she said, "Facebook." I typed Ashley Wilson and pulled up her profile. Perfect, of course. Posts about gratitude and healing, and God gives the toughest battles to his strongest warriors. Photos of Isabella and pumpkin patches at the zoo in matching outfits. Barely any of Matthew. If hypocrisy were a job, she'd be CEO, Gloria muttered. We clicked her friends list. "Search bar," George said. "Type the letter H." I did. A list of names appeared. Henry, Harold, Hector, Hugh. One by one, we opened their profiles and compared their faces to the man in the phone's photos. Henry, too old. Harold, wrong build. Hector,
lived across the country. Then I clicked Hugh Miller. There he was. Same eyes, same jaw, same small scar by his eyebrow I'd noticed in the video. That's him, I whispered. Huwe. His profile said he was 38, lived in our city, worked as a construction supervisor, liked football and barbecue, just an ordinary man with a very dark secret. Gloria blew out a breath. All right, she said. We have a face and a name to go with the messages. Now we need money, paper, anything that shows what he got out of this. I looked at her. How do you know so much about this stuff? She shrugged. I've had a lot of lonely evenings with the Investigation Discovery Channel. Those shows teach you things. We sat there as the sky outside shifted from gray to pink. The phone with Ashley's messages lay between us like a loaded gun. I had a choice, I realized. I could close the laptop, sew the blanket back up, hide the phone in a drawer, and tell myself I'd imagined it all. Or I could keep pulling the thread and watch my entire understanding of the last 3 years unravel. One more step. Then we decide. 2 weeks after surgery, my phone buzzed. Jason, mobile. For a second, I thought about declining. Then I answered. Yeah, I said. Mom, he whispered. It's me. I need to see you. You come alone, I told him. If she walks in that lobby, I'm walking right back out. He agreed. An hour later, there was a knock on my hotel door. When I opened it, I barely recognized him. He dropped weight. His eyes had deep shadows. His clothes looked slept in. He sat in the one chair. I sat on the bed with my cast propped up. She's gone, he said. Tiffany, or whatever her name is. She took everything, the savings, the joint account, my laptop, my watch, even a stupid air fryer. Must a note that said, thanks for the ride. I didn't say, I told you so, but my eyebrows did. You know what we call that, Jason? I asked. Tuesday. He barked out a sad laugh and then started crying. You broke my arm. I treated you like garbage. I believed a stranger over my own mother, and I don't know how to live with that. If you're a mom, you know how much that line hurts. Even when you're furious, your heart twists. Marcus told me everything, I said. She's a crow. She's got priors. They're going to lock her up. He nodded like a drowning man, rubbing the life support her. Yes. And Mom, I am so sorry. I didn't say I forgive you. Not then. Some words are too big to toss out in a hotel room.
Before we went to the police, Gloria had one more idea. We should see if Ashley has any peeper evidence in the house, she said. Insurance, contracts, anything. If she's as greedy as she looks, she left a trail. You want me to walk back in there like everything's normal? I asked. The house where my son died? Gloria touched my hand. I want you to go see your granddaughter, she said gently, like any grandma would. While you do that, I'll need the restroom and see what I can see. You keep Ashley talking. I'll keep my eyes open. It sounded insane, but then again, so did murder phone and baby blanket, and that part had already checked out. So I texted Ashley. Hi, Ashley. I know things are hard, but I really miss Isabella. Could I stop by today just for a little while? I bought her a present. 20 minutes later, today's not a good day. She's cranky. Maybe another time. Same script as always. I swallowed my frustration. Please, it'll only be a few minutes. I won't stay long. Another pause. Fine. 3 p.m. Don't be late. I have things to do. 3 o'clock. The same time as the note in the phone. My skin prickled. At 2:45, Gloria and I sat in my car down the block from Ashley's house. You sure about this? She asked. No, I said honestly, but I'm going anyway. She nodded. I'll wait 3 minutes after you go in, she said. Then I'll ring the bell. You distract. I investigate. I walked up the driveway, heart pounding. The house looked same as always. White siding, perfect little shrubs, wind chimes tinkling softly. The stairs, those stairs. I pressed the doorbell. Ashley opened the door. She wore black pants, a salmon-colored blouse, hair styled in loose waves, makeup flawless. Hi, Ellen, she said, smile small and controlled. Come in. The house smelled like lavender cleaner. Everything was spotless. Couch cushions fluffed, floors shining, family photos arranged just so. Except my son was missing from most of them. Where is Isabella? I asked. Upstairs, she said. I'll get her. She turned toward the staircase. I watched her walk up the steps where Matthew had fallen. The wood looked solid. No broken railing, no ripped carpet. Just another ordinary staircase in another ordinary house. My fists clenched. Ashley came back down with Isabella in her arms. Grandma, Isabella squealed when she saw me. I took her, my heart swelling and breaking at once. I missed you, my love, I whispered into her hair. Ashley leaned against the wall, scrolling on her phone like she was bored. Now, with one hand, I held Isabella. The other, I pulled myself from my pocket and said a single word to Gloria. Now. A minute later, the doorbell rang. Ashley frowned. Are you expecting someone? Probably my neighbor, I said casually. She drove me. My eyes aren't what they used to be. Ashley opened the door. Gloria stood there, purse on her shoulder, with a light smile on her face. I'm so sorry to bother you, she said. I'm Gloria, Ellen's neighbor. I came with her and just realized I desperately need a restroom. Could I possibly... Ashley hesitated. Then she forced a smile. First door on the left, she said. Gloria nodded, thanked her, and walked down the hall. Ashley watched her go. She seems chatty, Ashley said. You should hear us on Bingo night, I joked. Ashley didn't laugh. I needed to keep her attention on me. So, I said, rocking Isabella gently, how's work? Are you still on nights? Some, she said shortly. Why? Just wondering, I said. I know Matthew used to worry about you driving home tired. Her jaw tightened at his name. Yes, well, she said, Matthew worried about a lot of things. I looked down at Isabella. You still have that green blanket? I asked casually. The one I knitted her. I haven't seen it in a while. For a split second, panic slashed in her eyes. Then it was gone. Of course, she said. In the wash. She spilled juice on it. That blanket always comes back to the wash. Matthew loved it, said it was magic. Ashley's fingers tightened around her phone. Yes, Matthew loved a lot of things. Sometimes I think he loved that hospital more than he loved us. Before I could answer, Gloria walked back into the room. Thank you so much, she said sweetly. You saved my life. She gave my shoulder a quick squeeze. The signal. Well, we won't keep you, I said, kissing Isabella's cheeks. I'll see you soon, little one. Ashley walked us to the door and closed it quickly behind us, locking it with an audible click. We didn't speak until we were back in the car. What did you find? I asked. Gloria opened her purse and pulled out a manila envelope. This was under some boxes in her bedroom closet. I didn't open it there, but it felt heavy. She'd handed it to me. Let's go home, I said.
Back at my kitchen table, we opened the envelope. The first document was Matthew's life insurance policy. $500,000. Beneficiary, Ashley Wilson. Stamped across the top, paid in full. I swallowed hard. We talked about that policy before he got married. He'd wanted to make sure his family would be safe if anything ever happened. At the time, it sounded like maturity. Now it looked like motive. The next pages were bank statements. The insurance payout landed in Ashley's account. A few months later, a transfer of $200,000 went out to an account under the name Hugh Miller. Our H. Gloria exhaled through her teeth. There's our money trail, she said. Then she pulled out one more document and slid it across to me. You're going to want to read this sitting down, she said. It was a birth certificate. I smiled when I saw the name Isabella Rose printed at the top. Then my eyes slid to the line that said mother. It did not say Ashley Wilson. It said Lydia Torres. Who is that? I whispered. Gloria pointed at the birth date. Look at this, she said. Now think, when did Ashley say she was due? I counted months backwards on my fingers. Ashley had paraded a baby bump in front of us. Talked about nausea, back pain, due dates. The dates did not match. According to this certificate, Isabella had been born almost 2 months before Ashley claimed. Ashley never had that baby, I said slowly. Gloria nodded. She faked being pregnant. Somewhere out there was a young woman named Lydia who actually carried Isabella, and now we have her name. We went back to the laptop. I typed Lydia Torres and our city. A news article popped up from 4 years earlier. Young mother missing. Family seeks help finding 23-year-old last seen with newborn daughter. The photo showed a young woman with long dark hair, tired eyes, and a shy smile. My heart clenched. Another article dated months later. Remains of missing woman identified as Lydia Torres. Cause of death? Head trauma. The same words they used for Matthew. My hands started to shake. Ashley wanted a baby. Lydia had a baby and no support.
Lydia disappeared. Isabella appeared. My son died. $500,000 changed hands. The pattern was too clear to ignore. Gloria squeezed my arm. Ellen, she said, we're not just looking at one murder. We're looking at a woman who treats people like pieces on a board. I had spent 3 years clinging to the story that my son's death was random. Now I was about to walk into a police station and the proof that it wasn't. I wasn't just a grieving mother anymore. I was a witness.
The precinct smelled like old coffee, paper, and tired air. A woman at the front desk looked up as 2 older ladies walked in carrying a blanket and a bulging folder. "Can I help you?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "I need to report a murder. Maybe several?" That got her attention. We were led to a small office with mismatched chairs and a filing cabinet older than me. After a few minutes, a man in his mid-40s came in, tall, broad-shouldered, and hair graying at the temples. "Mrs. Stone?" he asked, offering his hand. "I'm Detective Jack Roberts." We shook hands and sat. "Tell me what's going on," he said. So I did. I started at the beginning. Matthew's accident, the day at the hospital, the way Ashley had pulled away, the blanket in the dumpster, the hidden phone, the photos, the messages about making him disappear, the Tuesday 3 p.m. plan, finding Hugh on Facebook, the life insurance documents, the bank transfers, Isabella's real birth certificate, the articles about Lydia. As I spoke, I slid each piece of evidence across the desk. Gloria filled in details I missed. Roberts didn't interrupt, didn't sigh, didn't treat us like hysterical old women. He just listened, took notes, and occasionally asked for a date or a spelling. By the time I finished, my throat ached and my hands were cramped. He leaned back in his chair and exhaled slowly. "Mrs. Stone," he said, it's a lot, and it's very serious." "Do you believe me?" I asked. He looked straight in my eyes. He said, "I believe the evidence you've put in front of me. And based on this, I'm reopening your son's case today. I'm also reopening the investigation into Lydia Torres's death. And I'm going to have a very long talk with Mr. Hugh Miller." "What about Isabella?" I asked, voice cracking. "She's still with Ashley." His expression softened. "Right now, Ashley is her legal guardian. That limits what I can do immediately, but I'm putting surveillance on the house. If Ashley tries to run or if anything suspicious happens, we'll know. In the meantime, I need you to keep living your life. Don't tip her off that you know anything. Can you do that?" I swallowed. Living my life pretending I didn't know my son had been murdered was exactly what I'd been doing for 3 years. Only now the pretending felt like betrayal. But I'm not it. "I'll try," I said.
He slid a car toward me. He said, "This has my direct line. If you see anything at all, you call me day or night." I tucked the card into my wallet next to the picture of Matthew in his white coat. We walked out of that building into bright sunlight. People bustled past us with coffees and briefcases and rosary bags, oblivious. Everything looked the same. Nothing was.
The next few weeks were a blur of waiting. Waiting for the phone to ring, waiting for a knock at the door, waiting for news that Ashley had vanished or that Isabella was hurt, or that the police had decided we were crazy after all. Instead, we got update. Roberts called often. They'd gotten a judge to sign off on exhuming Matthew's body. The second autopsy had found what the first one missed, bruise marks on his wrists, in places you wouldn't see unless you were looking. Finger-shaped shadows under the skin. He was being held, Roberts said. He didn't just fall. He was restrained and pushed. They pulled Ashley's phone records, her bank statements, her hospital shifts. They saw the exact day the insurance payout hit her account and the day $200,000 left it for Hugh. They checked Lydia's medical records. She'd been a patient at the same hospital where Ashley worked. They interviewed her family and confirmed she'd talked about a kind nurse offering help during her pregnancy. Ashley. They re-examined the lot where Lydia's body was found and learned that the land belonged to a company where Hugh had worked as a supervisor. Everything tightened, like a noose. Roberts questioned Hugh. At first, Hugh acted offended. "We were just co-workers," he said. "We went out a couple of times. I barely knew her husband." Then Roberts put the photos from the phone on the table. The restaurant, the hotel, the couch. Hugh's face crumbled. He admitted the affair, admitted the messages, but he insisted he never agreed to any plan. "It was just talk," he said desperately. "People vent. She was upset. I told her no." The bank transfers didn't look like no. Roberts held him as long as he could, 24 hours. But without a confession or more hard evidence, he had to release him. "It's frustrating," Roberts told me, "but it's temporary." If you've ever spent days waiting for something terrible, you know how your imagination starts doing laps. Every siren I heard, I thought of Isabella. Every time my phone buzzed, I jumped. Then, one morning before sunrise, it rang for real. "Mrs. Stone?" Detective Roberts' voice sounded wired. "We just picked up Ashley Wilson at the airport." I gripped the phone harder. "What?" "She had a suitcase of cash, fake passports for herself and the child, and one-way tickets out of the country," he said. "We arrested her at security. Isabella is with Child Protective Services now. She's scared, but she's okay. Can you come down to the station?" I was dressed and out the door in 10 minutes. Gloria insisted on driving. At the precinct, Roberts led us to a small room with a large pane of glass. On the other side was an interrogation room. Ashley sat at the table, hands cuffed in front of her. Her hair was messy, her makeup streaked. She looked smaller, but the tension in her jaw was pure steel. Another detective sat across from her. "We've got a lot to talk about," he said. "I want a lawyer," Ashley snapped. "I'm not saying anything." He didn't flinch. "That's your right," he said, "and your lawyer's on his way. But I want you to hear something. We have the phone you hid in Isabella's blanket. The same phone you sewed into the fabric and threw in the trash like yesterday's leftovers. We have the messages where you talk about needing your husband to disappear. We have the note about Tuesday at 3 p.m. We have bank statements showing $200,000 going from your account to you Miller's account after your husband died. We have Lydia Teresa's birth certificate with your daughter's name on it. We have land records for the lot where her body was found. We have a judge who agreed to exhume your husband's body, and a pathologist who says he was restrained. Do you really want to sit here and tell me we have nothing to talk about?" Ashley's skin went gray. "That phone," she whispered. "How did—" She cut herself off. The detective leaned forward. "Your mother-in-law," he said, "the woman you tried to keep away, the crazy old lady you thought you could outsmart. She's the reason you're here." Ashley's eyes flashed with hatred. "I knew she was sniffing around. That's why I had to leave. She was going to ruin everything." Again, she stopped herself. "Like you ruined Lydia's life?" the detective asked softly, sliding a photo of Lydia across the table. Ashley's eyes flipped down, then backed up again. "I want my lawyer," she said. "I'm done talking." The detective glanced at the camera in the corner. "Your lawyer can't undo the evidence. He can't unsend messages or untransfer money or unbury bodies. But sure, we'll wait." Roberts switched the audio off and turned to me. "She's not confessing," he said, "but she's rattled. And he's starting to realize he's not walking away clean." "What about Isabella?" I asked, my voice cracked on her name. "She's with social services," she said. "Would you like to see her?" My answer was a sob.
The room where they had Isabella waiting was painted with cartoon animals. There were blocks on the floor and a little table with coloring books. She sat in a plastic chair, clutching a stuffed bear. When she saw me in the doorway, she jumped up. "Grandma!" she cried, running across the room. I knelt as best I could and opened my arms. She collided into me with all the force in her little body. I held her like I could keep the world away. A woman in a blazer and kind eyes approached us. "Mrs. Stone?" she asked. "I'm Mary with Child Protective Services." I nodded, not letting go of Isabella. "Detective Roberts explained the situation," Mary said. We'd like to place Isabella with family if possible. We'll need to do some evaluations, home visit, background check. But from what I've seen, she's clearly bonded to you. I'll do whatever you need, I said. Whatever it takes to keep her away from all this. Mary smiled softly. I believe you, she said. The next few hours were a blur of questions and forms. Did I have health issues? Yes, but manageable. Did I have a steady income? Enough to keep the lights on and food in the fridge. Was my house safe? As safe as any house with too many throw rugs. Gloria came in and swore to all of it and more. She's stubborn, but in a good way, Gloria told Mary. She shows up, she doesn't quit. Isabella couldn't be in better hands. By the end of the day, Mary nodded. We'll do some follow-up visits, and there will be a custody hearing later, she said. But for now, Isabella can go home with you. Home. I buckled Isabella into the back seat of Gloria's car, her small hand gripping her bear. And for the first time since my son's death, I felt something like hope.
You might think once Ashley was arrested and Isabella was with me, the story would be over. But evil like hers rarely stops at one or two victims. While I learned how to make dinosaur-shaped pancakes and read bedtime stories again, Detective Roberts kept digging. One afternoon, he showed up at my door with a folder under his arm. I found something you need to know, he said. At my table, he laid out more photos and reports. The first was a hospital ID badge, a man in his early 30s with dark hair and light eyes. This is Adrian Wells, Robert said. He was a lab tech at the hospital where Matthew worked. Several of Lydia's friends said she'd been seeing someone who worked there. We think he was Isabella's biological father. My chest tightened. Where is he now? I asked. Dead, Robert said. 3.5 years ago. Single car accident. His car went off a rural highway and down a ravine. The case was ruled driver error. He slid another report toward me. There was one nurse who called in the accident, he said, who happened to be driving by, who tried to help and stayed till the ambulance came. He tapped the name and the page. Adrian Wilson. I felt sick. Roberts wasn't done. He said, we also pull records from the hospital, he said. In the last 4 years, 3 elderly patients under Ashley's care died unexpectedly. All 3 came to their will shortly before death to leave significant donations to the hospital. Those donations never made it to the hospital accounts. Instead, the money was routed through a web of shells and transfers to accounts tied to Ashley and you. We're exhuming those patients now. If we find the drugs we suspect in their systems. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. I stared at the table, at Matthew's file, Lydia's, Adrian's, 3 elderly strangers whose families had cried over natural deaths. How many people, I whispered, did she kill before we found that loan? Roberts closed the folder. We're going to find out.
he said, "and we're going to make sure she never has the chance to hurt anyone again."
Under pressure from all that evidence, Hugh finally cracked. He agreed to a plea deal, 25 years in prison instead of life, in exchange for full testimony against Ashley. He confirmed what the records suggested. Ashley had faked her pregnancy. She'd met Lydia at the hospital, offered help, let her stay with her after the baby was born. She told Matthew she'd gone into labor early, claimed a home birth, fed him a story while she carried in a newborn that wasn't biologically hers. She drugged Lydia, driven her to that empty lot, and killed her with a blow to the head. Hugh admitted he'd helped bury the body. He said he'd been in love, in over his head, afraid to say no. I didn't feel sorry for him. Hugh also said Ashley kept records, videos, documents, bank data, hidden somewhere in the house, in case anyone tried to double-cross her. So Roberts got another warrant and sent a teen back into that tidy house. This time, they weren't looking at surfaces. They tapped on walls, looked under floorboards, checked vents, measured shelves. After 4 hours, a shout came from the basement. They'd moved an old bookcase and found a small safe bolted into the wall. A specialist came, cracked it open. Inside was Ashley's trophy box, external hard drives, USB sticks, folders full of documents, printed photos, everything labeled in neat handwriting, names, dates, amounts. Roberts brought some of it to show me. We sat in my living room, Isabella drawing at the coffee table in the next room, while we watched the video Ashley had recorded of herself. She sat in a chair, hair done, makeup perfect, eyes flat. If you're watching this, it means I made a mistake. Maybe I trusted the wrong person. But I want one thing clear. I don't regret anything. Most people let life happen to them. They whine about being broke, about bad husbands, about bad luck. I didn't. Some people are obstacles. Some are opportunities. I took what I deserved. She smiled, small and chilling. Matthew was weak. Lydia was naive. Those old people were already dying. I just did what no one else had the courage to do. Roberts closed the laptop. He said quietly, "With this, the jury is going to see exactly who she is, and she will never get out."
The trial began months later. By then, Isabella was in preschool. I'd painted her room yellow, hung glow-in-the-dark stars on her ceiling, and learned to step on Lego blocks without screaming. She knew her mom was away. She didn't know the details. I kept her far from the courthouse. Inside, the atmosphere felt like a storm about to break. The gallery was packed. Reporters, curious locals, families of the elderly patients. I sat in the front row with Gloria beside me. Ashley was brought in, wearing a gray suit, no makeup, hair pulled back. She looked smaller,
but not broken. Our eyes met for a second. I expected guilt. I saw anger. Not because of what she'd done, but because she'd been caught. The prosecution laid out the case like a story. Chapter 1, the affair with Hugh. Chapter 2, the messages about needing Matthew to disappear. Chapter 3, the Tuesday 3 p.m. note. Chapter 4, the life insurance money. Chapter 5, Isabella's real birth certificate and Lydia's death. Chapter 6, Adrian's accident. Chapter 7, the elderly patients and the missing donations. Chapter 8, the safe and Ashley's own video. Then they called Hugh to the stand. He shuffled in an orange jumpsuit, looking 10 years older. Under oath, he told the jury everything. How Ashley had seduced him, how she complained about her boring husband, how she showed him the insurance policy and painted a picture of a life together funded by Matthew's death. He described in detail the day Matthew died, how they waited until he was alone, how Hugh grabbed Matthew's arms at the top of the stairs, how Ashley shoved. He heard his head hit the floor, he said, voice shaking. It was like a crack. Then she started screaming and calling 911 like it had just happened. He went on. He talked about Lydia, about the drugged drink, the blow to the head, the shallow graze. He talked about Adrian, how Ashley said, he's a loose end, and later told Hugh, problem solved. After the car accident, he talked about the elderly patients, how she switched medications, encouraged them to change their wills, and then watched them die. Ashley's lawyer tried to tear him apart. You're lying to save yourself, he said. You're a criminal trying to blame my client for her actions. But with every question, Hugh's story stayed the same, and the documents in Ashley's safe backed it up. Forensic experts testified about the bruises on Matthew's wrist, the specific pattern of Lydia's head wound, and the drugs found in the exhumed bodies of the elderly patients. By the time the prosecution rested, there was a weight in the room you could feel in your bones. Ashley chose not to testify. Her lawyer made a last attempt, said the case was circumstantial, that the video was posturing, that Hugh was a liar. The jury didn't buy it. They deliberated for 6 hours. I sat there clutching a tiny strand of mint green yarn in my pocket, thinking of Matthew's laugh, of Lydia's photo, of Adrian's parents who never got any real answers. When the jury filed back in, I thought my heart would burst. The foreman stood. In the case of the murder of Matthew Stone, guilty. In the case of the murder of Lydia Torres, guilty. In the case of the murder of Adrian Wales, guilty. In the cases of the murders of 3 elderly patients, guilty on all counts. Ashley didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't beg. She just stared straight ahead. The judge sentenced her to 6 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. 6 lives for 6 lives. It wasn't enough to bring anyone back.
but it was enough to make sure she never hurt anyone else again.
After the trial, the media circus faded. The cameras moved on. The headlines changed. My life shrank down to something simple and precious. Raising Isabella. We built new routines. Pancakes on Saturdays with too much syrup. Walks in the park where she'd tell me stories about imaginary kingdoms. Library trips where she picked books with dragons and brave girls. Some nights, she still woke up crying, calling for Mom. I'd hold her, stroke her hair, and say, "You're safe. You're loved. I'm here." When she was 7, she asked the question I'd been waiting for. "Mom, Grandma," she said, curling up next to me on the couch, "where's the mom who had me in her tummy?" I took a breath. Her hair smelled like apples. I said, "Her name was Lydia. She was very young and very brave. She loved you so much." "Why isn't she here?" Isabella asked. "Because something bad happened to her. It wasn't her fault. But before she had to go, she made sure you would be cared for. That's how you ended up with me." It wasn't the full story, not yet, but it was true enough for a 7-year-old heart. "And my dad," she whispered, "his name was Matthew. He was my son. He would have loved you more than anything. In his heart, you were his daughter from the moment he saw you." She thought about that for a long moment. "So you're my real grandma from my dad?" "Yes," I said, tears burning behind my eyes. "Yes, I'm your real grandma." She smiled. "Then we're connected by the heart." That night, after she fell asleep, I sat at the kitchen table and let myself cry. Not just for what we lost, Matthew, Lydia, the years we never get back, but for what we still had, each other. Years rolled forward like slow waves. Gloria and I aged the way people do. More pills on the counter, more doctor appointments, more stories we'd already told each other 100 times. Isabella grew up. She lost baby teeth, learned to ride a bike, started middle school, got braces, rolled her eyes at me, then cried into my shoulder when life felt like too much. When she was 16, I finally told her the whole truth. About Ashley, about Matthew, about Lydia, about the phone in the blanket. We sat on her bed, hands tangled together as I watched her world tilt. She cried. She asked questions. She said she felt sick. Then she wiped her face and said, "Thank you for telling me. I'd rather hurt with the truth than live with a lie." I pulled her into my arms. "You are braver than most adults I know," I told her.
Years later, on my 87th birthday, she handed me a box wrapped in lavender paper. "Open it," she said, eyes bright. Inside was a blanket, mint green, soft, hand knitted. The pattern wasn't perfect, a stitch here, a wobble there, but it was beautiful. "I learned to knit," she said shyly. "I wanted to recreate the blanket that connected us, only this one doesn't have secrets inside it, just loves." Tears blurred my eyes. I held the new blanket against my chest. "It's the most beautiful thing anyone has ever given me," I said. That night, I pulled the old blanket from the back of my closet. I had washed it, repaired the seam, folded it neatly, and tucked it away. I laid it on my bed next to the new one. The old blanket was heavy with memory. My son's joy, my granddaughter's first days, the horror of what it had hidden, and the courage it forced out of me. The new blanket was light with promise. No foams, no lies, no allot. Just hours of my granddaughter's time and all the tangled affection in those stitches. 2 blankets, 2 stories. One family that refused to let evil have the final word.
Today, Isabella is 21. She's in college studying medicine. She wants to be a pediatrician. She says she wants to help kids who go through hard things. Kids who need someone who understands what it's like to have the world pulled out from under them and still stand. Gloria is 83. We drink tea together every afternoon and complain about our joints and bless the day I decided to dig in a dumpster. Ashley is serving 6 life sentences in a maximum security prison. Hugh died of a heart attack in his cell 5 years ago. I don't visit. I don't write. I don't read their letters. They took enough of my life. They don't get to rent space in my head. Sometimes people ask me, "Ellen, how did you not lose your mind?" The truth is, for a while I did. But what pulled me back was having something worth fighting for. First Matthew, then Isabella, finally myself. If you're still listening, this part is for you. If something in your life feels wrong, money disappearing, stories that don't add up, a partner or caregiver who always has an excuse, documents that never seem quite right, do not talk yourself out of it just to keep the peace. You are not crazy. You're not paranoid. You're not too emotional. You are picking up on something. Check the statements. Read the fine print. Ask the question no one wants you to ask. If your gut is screaming that someone you love didn't just have bad luck, listen. Because the only reason Ashley isn't out there hurting more people is because one old woman saw a flash of yarn, pulled the blanket out of the dumpster, opened the seams and refused to shut up about what she found. If my story reached you, tell me in the comments where you're watching from and write, "I'm protecting my peace." Maybe your blanket is your bank account. Maybe it's your house. Maybe it's your mind. Whatever it is, my love is free. My house is not. My safety is not. And my dignity is never up for negotiation. Not for family, not for anyone.